Hi, this is Sarah, and today Fiona is sharing bravely into 2021. Hi, Fiona.
Hey Sarah, thanks so much for having me. I'm delighted to be chatting with you today.
So maybe
Yay.
you could just tell people a little bit about yourself. So maybe where you're born, where you are now, and a bit about what you do.
Right, where I'm born. Well, I'm an Irish girl. I'm born in Ireland. I live in Ireland. I won't go into the details of the counties because you might not know, but I lived in the upper half of the country, County Cavan, and I'm now in the southwest in County Clare. So I am a project manager and I am a success coach. I have been in business for 4 years now, set up initially as a project manager and started a coaching business now last year. But I suppose prior to all of that, I went to college, I did some traveling in Australia, and then I came back and started, I suppose, the proper work, my first real job in corporate, and that led to my second job, which was quite a lot longer in corporate, ended up being, I suppose, 15 years, my last role. So I'm a fully fledged corporate ex-corporate person. I am married for 19 years now. Gosh,
Hmm.
time is flying. And three beautiful children, two boys and a girl. Yeah, so life is good. But it's had its ups and downs and trials like everybody else. So all great learning. So that's kind of like, I thought, the initial background.
Okay, so maybe tell the listeners a little bit as to what's important to you in your life.
Mm. So what's important to me, I suppose, has changed as years have gone on. And I suppose right now, in this moment that I'm in, what is really important to me is my family, but also myself and what I experience every day and how I live every day, has become over the last few years just a really real to me, that the importance is being alive every day and actually trying to experience the day as best you can, whether that be a great, powerful, happy day or whether that be a roller coaster of emotion day. But either, it doesn't really matter. But it boils down to, I suppose, giving myself some time, giving my family some time, and then giving my work the time that it needs and the clients that I have. And spending that time in the most productive way I can. But like I said, there are days where that all works lovely and swimmingly, and then there are days where it's like, okay, what did I learn there last year? Did I forget everything again? And that's okay, because you know what? You learn from it and you go to sleep, shake it all off, and get up the next day and okay, fresh start, let's start again.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I love what you're saying. There's an element of balance, and to say always balance doesn't always mean that it's really balanced like this. Some days it's more like this, and other days it's more like that. And actually, just going with it, allowing it to be in the way that it is that day, is what you're aiming at. And
Yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to explain is, so this is life. This is real life.
This is real life. And but what I discovered, actually, funnily, this morning, I was standing outside doing a few little stretches, as I do, embracing the day. It's one of my favorite things to do now. But I remembered, my mind just went back to quite a number of years ago when I was a mum first. And maybe I can't remember back. It's actually funny. When you get married and become a mum, this is my experience of it. Um, and you take on the identity of a mum, because you automatically do that, and maybe the identity of a wife, and you roll with that, and you're rolling automatically, because I was a full-time mum as well, working mum. I worked 5 days a week for most of it. You are an automatically, I mean, I've discovered all this afterwards. I've learned all about personal development and how our minds work, but really it reminded me how automatic I was, and how I actually never stopped to look up and embrace the day, how I just got up and went into the day, and it was into the doing, into the chuk 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 chuk, of the kids and the lists and getting out the door and the work and the lunches and the screaming and the roaring and the text messages for where you need to be with the hurling and the soccer and oh my God, and still don't have lunches, and okay, quick, get to bed so that we can get up the next day to do repeat, and squeezing a holiday there and squeezing a holiday there. And it's such a roller coaster of just mayhem that you just think, well, this is just life. So you just have to get on with it. And it's only when something happens, with most points in time, something actually happens to make you stop and think and ask that question, hang on a minute, is this it, or am I doing it right, or is there no other way? Is this what another 30, 40, 50 years is going to look like unless I make some changes?
What was that moment for you? What was that trigger? What did make you stop?
Well, there was a few things, and it was a combination, but there was a bit of, when I think back on it, there was a bit of a build-up. I was starting to feel things inside. And I remember in particular one evening, I think it was a Monday evening, at the kitchen table, and everything was fine. We had gone from putting the kids into a creche to having a lovely young girl come to the house. So because the oldest, I think, had reached 10, so I didn't want to send him to the creche anymore. He didn't want to be going. And this lady was coming to mind them, take them up after school, kind of check the homework, make them the dinner. And I'd been kind of feeling unsettled for a while, but this particular evening, I remember I was sitting at the table, my husband was eating, he was yapping on about something, and I wasn't able to eat my food. And the tears just started streaming down my face and onto the plate. I actually couldn't put anything into my mouth. And he was talking to me, he didn't know what was going on. At some point when I wasn't responding, he just said, what was wrong? And I just said, I don't know. Because everything was fine. In theory, everything was fine. All the boxes were ticked. And I said, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. I don't feel happy. I have my job, I have my income, I have my kids, we're all healthy. Now, there was another thing going on parallel to that to do with our home, but at that point in time, it was actually fine. But
so stop, Fiona, you had everything you'd dreamed of having. You had everything you'd aimed to achieve. And yet you were sat there feeling like, is this it? What am I doing? Something's not right.
It was to do, I don't know what it was. It was to do, there was something more going on, but the only way I could explain it at that point at the kitchen table was, the girl's name was well, let's just call her Emily. I just said, I don't want Emily feeding my kids. I don't want Emily to be the one that picks them up. I don't want Emily to be the one to do the homework. I said, I want to do it.
Right.
And that was a piece of it. It wasn't all of it, but it was a piece of it. And nothing happened from then. It just went on, and I had, do what I do best, which is finish the cry, have a good bowl, and, then wash up the dishes and move on. And, you do that a few times. But the other point was the other breaking point was around, we got into a financial situation to do with our home, and decisions had to be made and something had to happen. And it was as a result of that whole roller coaster, which I won't go into now, just led me to a point where, like, okay, I actually don't want to go back to my corporate job now. And I want to actually be here for my children. I don't want to send them to a minder anymore, and I don't want somebody else coming in. I actually just want a clean slate, and I want to do it all, and I want to see then what happens.
Okay, and how did that feel when you realized what you didn't want anymore?
Oh, when you realize what you don't want anymore, that's actually a huge first step. Because sometimes we can say, if somebody says to me, what do you want? I don't know what I want. But if they ask you, what do you not want, which is not usually the way we ask somebody something, you can kind of nearly list, well, here's what I don't want. And out of that, then you can start to see, maybe I could want something else instead. When you get rid of what you don't want, does that make sense?
Totally.
And that clarity, when you make a decision, because for me, the decision was, I don't want to feel stuck anymore. I don't want to be in this situation anymore. And I don't know what I'm going to do to make it different, but I do know I don't want any more of this. And I want to draw a line in it now. And I want to start seeing what I could possibly do, what I could possibly have instead, and making that decision, that clarity, oh my God, like in itself was a gift, because it's like this wave of energy then comes over you to say, okay, well, wow, if I've just given myself permission to see what is possible, you actually then start, all these little things start coming into your head of what could be possible. And you give yourself permission to dream.
So what's been your learning through all of this as you've gone on this journey? And obviously the journey of life still ongoing, but what is it that your really key learnings you wish you'd have known like 10 years ago?
Oh, 10 years ago. What are we in now? 2021. So 2011. 2011. At that point in 2011, three major things had happened in my life. And I wish I had known at that point that I could have told myself a different story. I wish I had had some knowledge about how our mind works, because I had no clue. I mean, I had no clue about any personal development, any mindset work, any of that. I mean, if somebody said to me, read this book, I mean, unless it was a chick flick, a chick book, I just wasn't interested, because I would see a book as, I need to just, read about somebody else's like chill out story so I could just escape mine. But to know how our mind works, to know the stuff that we tell ourselves, the thoughts that we think. I mean, it was crazy. No wonder I was in situations. No wonder I was a ball of anxiety. No wonder I spent so much time crying. No wonder like I had like ailments within me. And I know I still have ailments inside me that are recovering from that, because there's balls of stress still in there, because it takes, if it takes years to build them up, it takes years to get rid of them. But because I was just feeding myself all this poisonous stuff through what I was thinking, what I was saying, what I was believing. So if I'd known that that was actually a poisonous way to be, that would have been gold, pure gold.
So how do you use that now to help your clients to like build your business?
So what I really zone in on with myself first, and then my clients, and it's not easy. It sounds easy. And in theory, it kind of is easy, but it's just that we're built differently, and we've got a lot of, I suppose, old programming to get rid of. But it's about how we speak to ourselves, the words that we say. So many times I have to nearly, because everything's on Zoom, I want to reach into the Zoom through the screen and say, please give me that stick. Let's throw away the stick, because we walk around from a very early age with a stick that we beat ourselves up with. And it's just like, put the stick down. You aren't all these things that you're saying about yourself. There's so much more. And if you look in the mirror, and by the way, which a lot of people don't want to do or afraid to do, and I mean simply like actually just look to see even the reflection, like properly look, and to see a person that you love. If your child or your best friend or your parent or whatever loved one is standing in front of you and saying negative things about themselves, what would you do in that case? You'd embrace them, you'd give them all the love and hugs, and you'd create a little bit of safety for them, and you'd wrap them with beautiful words. So what we need to do is so important to do that for ourselves first, to learn to do that for ourselves. But we're not taught to do that at an early age. So it's trying to, for me in my 40s, change 30 plus or more years of stick beating into loving and saying and creating safety in our system. When when a child wants to you that has like, oh, mom, I broke the glass, or I spilled the milk, or I got the spellings wrong, you physically take them and you give them that love. So it's to actually physically even take yourself and give yourself that safety of love and protection, saying it's okay, you know.
Right. I love what you're saying here, because I mean, I agree in this, like, all the work starts with ourselves. It's inside us before we can even look at what we're doing externally. It's like, how do we change our relationship with ourselves and how we see ourselves and be proud of ourselves? Because you know, I hear this too, that there's an awful lot of kind of, we're our own worst enemy. I think it's easily said, but very difficult to change in the internal kind of talkings of the mind as to what that actually means. So it sounds like you do an awful lot of kind of deep work with people. So how do you actually nurture yourself? You've kind of briefly jumped on this earlier, but how do you nurture yourself? How do you keep yourself, your energy up?
Oh, and yeah, and it's Sarah, it's an ongoing process. And I'm getting better at it. As I said, I suppose really I started on this whole personal development journey myself in 2018 when I found coaching. And I found coaching because I had started my own business. So these things had started to happen over a few years, you know, the breakdown with the kids and wanting to be there. Then the house thing happened, and then we changed places where we were living. And then I started my own business. So it was like one ball after the other. And with each one, I was learning something, but I didn't know what to do with all that learning. And again, there was another kitchen table. So, at this stage, it wasn't with the husband. It actually was between me and Google. And I typed in something to Google. I don't know what I typed. It was something like, help. And I found coaching, and I knew I needed to sort something in my head. And I came across this coaching program, and I actually was looking for a coach when I discovered that they existed, and it wasn't all about your career, because I didn't know that before then. And ended up doing the coaching training. So that led me on the personal development journey, and it's been ongoing since then. And I've been learning to kind of put myself first. And it's a slow process, because if you've always been last, you can't just go from the last of the line to the top of the line. You have to just kind of like, can I go in front of you? And then can I go in front of you? And can I go in front of you? And with each little piece, there is a change. So I suppose where I am now, I'm probably close to the top, or maybe I'm at the top aligned with a few others. So, you know, I'm almost there. But what I do for myself is I do take more time just for me. I have a morning routine. I give myself an hour in the morning to do the things that I want before anybody else gets on to me, before I even, you know, get into work, or whether the kids are up. It's me time. And then I try and create little pockets during the day again where there's more me time. It could be just 10 minutes of sitting in the garden with a cup of tea, but I just say to them, leave me alone. Mom needs 10 minutes. Or it could be 10 minutes again later on, just up in the bedroom, just lying down and just doing a few deep breaths. And I need my little piece of time at nighttime before I go to bed. And I've slowly put them into the schedule as such, as in I dropped them into the family, because you can't go from being everywhere for everyone to suddenly not being around. You've got to just take it one little piece at a time, because you're going to shock them. So people who are used to having you there for them all the time, it's not that you're not there for them anymore, but you're just, you know, not instantly there for them. I'll come back to you, and that's okay. I'm doing my piece first, and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
And that's
so creating boundaries to be able to give yourself the energy that you need to be there for them.
Yes. Yeah. Because we're all very good at saying like, oh, do you know what? Well, I'd love to go off now and have my cup of coffee in peace. And sure, wouldn't we all love that, Fiona? Isn't that great? But sure, I can't, because sure, your one will be wanting this, and your man will be wanting that, and the phone will be ringing here. But you just got to create it one little piece at a time. You can't go from 0 to 100. You've got to just do it, as say, go to the first person, skip the first person in the queue, then go ahead of that, and introducing it to them slowly as well, so that there's no harsh reactions.
Yeah, I mean, it's change management at the end of the day, isn't it? It's about change management for yourself, but also for others around you and those you care about, and doing it with the intention that I can be in a better place and I can serve people better when I'm when I'm looking after myself, when my cup's overflowing, when I've got the energy that's there.
Yeah. And one, like a big thing as well, Sarah, is awareness, becoming aware of what you're doing and what you're saying.
Those internal stories you were talking about.
Yeah. And just even like the awareness of, well, I just beat myself up there. Like, well, so rather than beat yourself up, that you just beat yourself up, that you just say, okay, well, that's interesting. Okay. So I'll just take note of that and remember that the next time. Or you follow it up with like, you know, and this sounds a bit mad, and I can probably end up talking to myself a lot during the day, like, Fiona, I'm sorry about I said that to you, but like, you know what, I'm actually sorry, and you're actually not a total loser. You're actually doing the best you can. So even if you slip up, that you're aware that you slipped up and you can negate it straight away. You know, it's like if you shout at your child, because look, at the end of the day, we're all human, and as nice as we want to be to them, there are moments where they just, you know, trigger us to the point where like we do react. But you know, when you've done it, and straight away you'll probably go to them and say, I'm really sorry, now I didn't mean to shout at you and whatever, and then you have a little thing. So just do that for yourself as well.
Right.
It's the same thing. You
It's
know?
like I'm hearing from you again, it's like giving yourself this permission to, you know, just be with whatever's there.
Yeah. And accepting it, like, but it is, you know, it is a journey. It's not a flick of a switch, it's not an overnighter. It's ongoing, and that's the greatness about it. But
so as you say, it's a journey. What is your wish for yourself for 2021?
Well, I'm living my wish right now, because I've just given myself permission to, you know, have a beautiful summer, and that's okay. I don't have to be on the push with my business, that it's okay to just be open and allowing to it. And one of the words that I picked for 2021 for myself was trust. Trusting myself, trusting my decisions, trusting my journey, trusting that everything is for me, that will come to me. And it's been kind of a learning, it's been one I've been working on all year, and I haven't quite got it. But I can see now, as we're in August now, that it's starting to sink in a little bit better. So my wish is just to keep embodying that actually for the rest of this year, to the point where it's just, you really do just trust. You show up, you do what you can, and you just, for all the world, leave it to God if you're a Christian.
So
or
I just want you to clarify
universe,
something, you know? Fiona.
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say just embodying it? What do you mean by that?
For me, it means just really knowing, just really absorbing trust in myself and everything around that, what that word represents for me. So it's like, it's in that, it actually goes into my pores, that I just know that when something happens, or I go to start reaching a point of agitation, or go to kind of go back a little bit, that I can just call on that and just say, you know what, it just flows, it comes out, to just be open and trust.
Right.
That it's just part of me, that I just, you know, that I don't have to second guess it. I don't have to question it. I just know it.
Okay. So taking it into your knowing, that's great. I just wanted to clarify, because I think some people would struggle to understand what like you mean by embodying.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So when you look outwards, what's your one wish for the world for 2021?
I would love the world to just all just to be able to just pause a little bit more, to not rush back in. I feel this sense of this pause that we got in 2020 with COVID, and you know, you'd see it on social media, you'd see it on the news, and how everyone was just, you know, the world was settling. You could see the pictures of the blue waters and the plants, and everything was just being allowed to sit and rest, and everyone had beautiful moments to report. I know people were quite anxious. I know there was illness. I know there was a lot of negativity as well, but there was also this other side. And I do feel that a lot of that is starting to get lost as things start to open up. And it would be lovely if people could just remember to just maybe not go full back into what was, to not to go back to the norm of January 2020, but to actually just be open to, retaining a lot of what was learned, because there was a lot of good stuff. I know there was a lot of bad stuff, but there was a lot of good stuff.
So you're talking about retain the positive elements of what people have learned in the last
the
18
reconnection
months.
with themselves, the reconnection with nature, with family, just the whole pausing and being able to see that it's not all about the rush, and it's okay that things can stop. And rather than going back again to 100% busy, to just I think because a lot of people were working from home, those who could work from home worked from home. And that meant that they no longer had to travel. So say, for an example, maybe somebody might have been commuting an hour every day each way. So that's 2 hours of their day would have been in a car. That was then given back to them as a gift. What they did with those 2 hours, I don't know, but just let's say they took on some exercise, or they, used it for themselves or their family or whatever, that rather than rushing back to give all that time back again, or that maybe that healthy piece that they embodied, or that healthy connection that they got back with relationships, that, to learning to pause, to learning to have that extra time is still important. We don't have to go back. Going back is not the key. It's taking what you've learned from it and using that now going forward.
So you keep on kind of touching on this as you're talking, which is about getting conscious about the choice that we're making each day. And by not making a choice, or by taking a choice, we're effectively making a choice about what we want. And, using that as a way to, be conscious as to what we choose and what we bring into our lives.
Yeah, that it's okay to slow down, that it's okay to not be in the rush, because life isn't going anywhere. Well, the world isn't going anywhere as such. If you look at it, what I've just started to know, and it's funny because, as I said, listen, I would have been clueless to this 10 years ago. Do you think I would have stopped and seen the skinny moon in the sky last night 10 years ago? Not a chance. Like, it would have to be the big orange one in my face before I would have seen it. But when you start to slow down, you see things. And what I've just really taken notice over the last 12 months is the seasons and nature, and how no matter what is going on in anyone's life, whether it be all of us together in a pandemic or something to do with us personally, is that nature continues. The seasons comes, the leaves fall and they grow back, the lambs are born, the little flowers with the different months come out. Everything just keeps going. Sun comes up, the moon comes up, the waves come in, tides go out, whatever. And that will always keep happening, regardless of whether we are reactive and agitated and a ball of stress, or we're actually just, let's just, be a little bit less reactive. You don't need to have to go to all like calm and, woolly altogether, but just like a little bit less, a little bit more time to just stop for a few moments and just to remember that you're breathing, and just a little bit more of that. If that makes sense.
Grounding, definitely. It's like kind of those moments, those small moments of joy that when you stitch them together are actually what builds happiness.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to feel like, oh gosh, well, we have to all get grounded. And that's some of these words that get bandied around about can put people off, like meditation or whatever. Meditation can be just taking a moment to just look at a bird that's just landed on the table outside your window. It can be like just 30 seconds of just that. Or it can be just, instead of throwing the cup of tea into you with the biscuit, actually, did you taste the biscuit? What even flavor was the biscuit? Did you even know what you just ate? And there's only a few extra minutes in doing it that way, as opposed to like, because we're all so rush. I don't have time. I'm just trying to food into me. Just get it in, just fuel the body, you're not even fueling the body the right way when you do it that way, because it's just getting caught and everything, like, so it's not even working properly. But even just say like, yeah, actually, do you know what is this biscuit in front of me right now? I shouldn't be saying biscuits now and sugar, but like but it's a chocolate biscuit. Yeah, and now I'll eat it, now that I've just taken a moment. And that's a form of meditation. So it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, you want to meditate? I don't have time for that crap. Like,
Oh, I love chatting with Fiona. I think we could talk for hours. But if you were going to share one last piece of advice, maybe a podcast or a book or something you found helpful on your journey, what would it be?
well, I suppose I would have to, the very first thing that just gave me that little bit of kickback, I was in a very low place after the scenario of a few things happening over those couple of years. And for a couple of months, I was in bed, and I did get up, but it was just, it wasn't me. And the book that I read just before I started my coaching course, actually, so this was quite a low point in my life, was Hal Enrod's Miracle Morning, or The Morning Miracle. I can't remember which way it is. And it was just, there was some powerful statements in there, some of which I printed out actually, and it's actually in front of me here as I speak. There were some great sentences in that, and that just really had a profound impact on me, that just kicked me off. And one of them is here, actually, I'll just read it to you now. It's where you are is a result, where you are now is a result of who you were, but where you go depends entirely on who you choose to be from this moment on. So it doesn't matter what happened back then. You've got, like, every moment you've got a clean slate to just,
every moment you've got a choice to make that, to rewrite what you want tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
great,
Sarah.
Thank you, Fiona. It's been so much fun and lovely to see you, and lovely to share in your story. And thank you for sharing it with our listeners.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.